The first thing to remember with 3-2 is just to know that place value, that you have your ones place and then the decimal point, and then you have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So when it says tenths, you know you have tenths. And now all we have to do is fill in this 9. 3 cents. Remember when we looked at something like this, 74 cents, this is dimes and these are pennies. So if I write this 3 cents, that's saying 3 dimes, which is 30 cents. That doesn't work. So instead, I want to think, okay, I have dimes and then I have pennies, which we also call cents. And then I'm going to put the 3 in the cents, and then I'll put the 0 there as a placeholder, and that says 3 cents. And I really should add the dollar sign there. Then once again, I have thousandths, and I have 3 zeros there, which kind of helps me. So I have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. I need to add in my 12, but remember, if I put my 12 here and then put a 0, that's saying 120 thousandths, so that doesn't work. What I need to do is I need to write in my 12 first, and then add in my 0 as a placeholder, and then it will say 12 thousandths. So once again, I have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And if I look, I have 52 thousandths. So again, I want to write in my 52 and then put in my 0 as a placeholder. And I have 52 thousandths. Here I have hundredths. So I have tenths, hundredths, and this is nice because the 65 just transfers over without any zeros that I have to add in. Here, however, I have hundredths again. So I have tenths, hundredths. I need to put my 7 in, but I need to put my 7 in the hundredths place and then put in a 0 so I have 7 hundredths. And then I'm going to leave the third column for you to figure out. For the next section, it's asking you to circle the value that's not equivalent to the other values. So it's kind of like the old Sesame Street, which of these doesn't belong. So in number 10, this has a 4 in the tenths place, this has a 4 in the tenths place, this has a 4 in the tenths place, this has a 4 in the tenths place. Okay, so they all have 4 tenths. This has a 7 in the hundredths place, this has a 7th in the hundredth place. Ooh, this has a 0 in the hundredths place. That has a 7 in the hundredths place. So this one is not equivalent. Next, we look here again at the tens place. The tenths place has an 8, an 8, an 8, and an 8. Those are all the same. The hundredths place has a 0, a 1, a 1, and a 1. So we have 1, 1, 1, 0. So this is the one that is not equivalent, not equal, not the same. Number 14, and obviously I'm going down instead of across, I have a 3 in the tenths place, a 3 in the tenths place. I'm going to rewrite this one to say 39 hundredths, and I'm going to write this one to say 39 thousandths. Hopefully you all said that doesn't say 39 thousandths. That says 390 thousandths. So I want to make sure I write it the correct way. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I have 3, 3, 3, but here I have a 0. So right away, without having to go any farther, this is the one that is not equivalent. Do the same thing with this column where you're looking at the same place value, and right away here I see, oh, this is 5 tenths. This has a 0, so that one is not equivalent. And go ahead and do 13 and 15 on your own. Our word problem says a store had the same amount of 5 fabrics. The chart right here shows how much of each fabric is left. We're going to use this information to answer the questions. 25 says the store sold the most of which fabric? So if I look at all of my tenths places, I have a 4, a 5, a 6, a 4, and a 5. Those are all in the same place value, so whichever number is the biggest is the one that is the most. You know that of 4, 5, and 6. 6 is the biggest, so they sold the most of yellow because, here's your explanation, 6/10 is the biggest number. And I ran out of room. I shouldn't have written in cursive, I guess. Then it asks, the store sold the least of which fabric? So now we have a little bit of a conundrum here because we know it's not this one, because that's the most. And then we have 5/10, 4/10, 5/10, 4/10. Well, you know that 4 is less than 5. So we have to figure out which of these two numbers is smaller. So you notice that I lined up my decimal points because now I can compare these a little bit easier. I have both of them have a 4 in the tenths place. This has an 8 and this has a 9. You know that 8 is less than 9, so this number is smallest up there. So we're going to say black, and we're going to say because 48 hundredths, my pen is struggling here, is smallest. Finally, it asks us that there's the same amount of two fabrics. Well, first of all, we know that black and blue are not the same because we just wrote down here and they aren't the same. So let's look just by chance and see. We have red is 510 thousandths. I'm going to line up my decimal points and I'm going to write 51 hundredths. Well, let's look at this. They both have zeros, 5's in the tenths place, 1's, and remember when there's nothing there, it's the same thing as 0. So I'm going to say it's the same amount for red and white, and I'm going to say 0.510 equals 0.51. Once again, I'm going to leave the top of the remembering section for you to do. I think you guys have gotten pretty good at solving equations with variables and moving on to the factor puzzles because those kind of give us a little bit of a hard time sometimes. Remember, I'm going to start, it doesn't matter if you start vertically or horizontally, I'm going to start horizontally and say what number goes into both 21 and 22. Well, if I think about my factors of 21 and 22, the only number that goes into both of them is 3. So I'm going to write 3 on each side. Once you get that first number done, the rest is much easier. Because now I'm going to say, what do I multiply by 3 to get to 21? Or 21 divided by 3 is 7. Move them both places. Then again, I'm going to say, what do I multiply by 3 to get this time to 24? And that gets us to 8, and we're going to move my 8 up here. Now we just keep going around the factor box. I'm going to say, what do I multiply by 8 to get to 48? Or I could say 48 divided by 8 is what? And we know that that is 6. And then I'm going to bring my 6 to the other side. And now because I have the box left, I have to take these two numbers, multiply them together, and it gives me my last box. Number 14, I'm going to look at these two numbers because I think these two numbers are going to be easier to look at than the vertical ones. So if I think of what goes into 63 and 54, I know 9 goes into both of them. Most of you are probably seeing why I have been pounding into your heads how important it is that you know your math facts because your homework goes so much faster. So I say, all right, what do I multiply 9 by to get 63? Well, 9 times 7 is 63, or you could say 63 divided by 9 is 7. I'm going to move my 7 up here, and I'm going to say, what do I multiply 7 by to get 21? And that gets us to 3. What do I multiply 9 by to get to 54? And that is 6. Move my 6 up here. And now the last one, I just multiply these two together, and that gets us to 18. And I'm intentionally leaving 15 for you to try on your own to see if you can get it. Remember, the first thing that we want to do with word problems is read them all the way through. So we have Franco is ordering lunch with a drink, sandwich, and a salad. He has a choice of 3 drinks, 2 sandwiches, and 4 salads. How many possible lunches are there, or how many combinations? Whenever we're talking about combinations, we could draw out a picture with the chart that we have, or we can just take each of these numbers, and because it's a combination problem, we can multiply them all together. because it's multiplication and the commutative property, the order doesn't matter. So we can just say that's 6 times 4, and then we have a total of 24 lunches. Now be careful if you're working with me on the iPad that you don't just write down the answers, that you're showing your work just like you would be if you were doing it on your own or with your parents. Number 17 says, Tamara has 4 times as many pages to read for her report as Maria. Tamara has 20 pages left to read. How many pages does Maria have left to read? Well, here we have comparison because you're comparing Tamara to Maria. And we want to see who has more. Tamara, or Tamara, I don't know how you pronounce her name, she has 4 times as many pages. So because she has multiple pages left, she is the big bar, and Maria is the little bar. Well, now we go to our next piece of information. Tamara has 20 pages left. We know that that is 4 times, which we put in our circle. And now we say to ourselves, either 20 divided by 4, or what do I multiply by 4 to get to 20? And that's 5. So she has 5 pages left. Number 18 says Dion wants to place new carpet in his room. The floor in his room has a width of 6 feet and a length of 10 feet. I am going to do this differently, sorry. So we have 6 and we have 10. How much carpet does he need? Remember, carpet covers the whole area of something. That's why they're called area rugs. When we find area, we take our length times our width, we multiply them together, and it gets us to 60. So he needs 60 feet squared or 60 square feet. Nicely done.